So, welcome one more time. We are officially starting with our first introductory lecture or class from the new training called The Science and the Art of Astrology. This is an open class, and the main purpose is, first of all, to kind of like introduce you to what you can expect when you are just getting started with astrology or you want to go deeper into astrology. So I want to make sure that this class will be helpful for everyone, not just if you decide to join, but there will be interesting, valuable information that you can use if you want to also study astrology on your own or you want to start at another time. My goal is to show you what is possible, what you can expect, what you can do, what astrology can bring into your life, some important principles in this work. And also, I want to introduce you to my style and the way I work, the way I teach. And honestly, I've been doing this for a while. And of course, every time it's special in its own way and it's always exciting. But honestly, this year, somehow it feels more special. It's hard to describe it, but you know that the time when something happens, by the way, this is very important for our work, is crucially important because it defines basically where everything is going. It defines like the major flow. So, for example, if you decide to start studying astrology right now, it won't be the same as if you decide to study next year or you have decided last year, or every time it's something new. You know this expression that you can never get into the same water twice. You are not the same and the water is never the same. So every time there is something special, every time there is something new, something deeper, and it's also very relevant to the astrology atmosphere, or basically what are the current energies allowing us to do. In some moment, we'll see when exactly. I want to show you also why I chose this day to start the training. And this will be also very important for us to understand what to focus on, what is the best approach, what do we need to consider, what will help us. So the day is, yeah, pretty interesting. So, and you know, this is, I'm actually very grateful that we have such an opportunity, because those are things that obviously we can't control. The only thing we can do is to find a good time, but then those opportunities are also provided. So you will see what I mean. Let's start with the basics. What is astrology? Astrology also comes from the ancient, I think it's Latin or Greek word, which sounds astrologia. Actually, in Bulgarian, we also call it astrologia. And what this means is astro, which is star or stars, and logos or logia, it's about studying. So basically, we are studying the stars, so to speak. And here I would like to introduce you to one of the very special spiritual principles. We will talk about those principles in more details in the training, but this one is really foundational because it explains why we even explore the stars or the planets or the sky and all of that. And what I'm talking about is the second Hermetic principle. It's called the principle of correspondence. And it says, as above, so below, as within, so without. In other words, everything is connected. And by exploring the external, in other words, the astrology perspective, the sky, the solar system, we are also exploring what is inside of us as general principles. So from one side, it shows you generally how things work, how humans are kind of like created, what is the human psychology, so some kind of really universal principles. But then also we can explore how each of us is created specifically. So the astrology perspective allows us to explore the outside world. And here we talk about the big world, mostly the solar system. And by exploring the solar system, we understand also how we work on an inner level, what is also inside of us. The other perspective, within and without, is also very important. So this is the horizontal line. The other one is the vertical. Above, below, within, without. So they are all connected. And the within and without principle or focus is about understanding that your inner world, how you were created, what you are experiencing, kind of like what has been planted inside of you, also reflects your external experience, or in other words, what happens in your life, what you do, what kind of environment you find yourself in, what kind of events are happening to you. All of those are connected. So from one side, we understand like the bigger picture, how human psychology, the human life works, but also individually for ourselves. And by studying this, you really find your own place and you find explanations why something happens, even in the outside world, why certain events are maybe repeating in your life, or certain type of people or particular patterns. All of this will start to make sense, and you will see that none of those things are randomly happening or out of nowhere. Everything is there for a reason. And I already mentioned it, but again, to clarify that in astrology, we say, yes, this is studying the stars. And this is like one area which can be explored, literally about the stars which are far away from us. We call them fixed stars, but that's not the foundation of astrology. The very foundation, basics, the most important is our solar system. So that's what we explore in the birth or natal astrology, the solar system. And in particular, our own or someone else's natal chart. Natal chart or horoscope, it's the same thing. And basically what we do is that we kind of like make a picture of the sky and how it looked like at the moment when we were born. A hint that generally we can do this for any other thing which is starting. Like, for example, our class today, as I said a bit later, I will show you the chart for today and what it represents and how interesting it is. But when it comes to the person, the moment when they were born, this is the moment of the first breath, technically, and the position of the planets, from our perspective here on the Earth, this is what represents the natal chart. So we explore this. Here, I want to clarify the position again, which we are using is from the place of birth. There is another type of astrology, just mentioning this. It's not for the beginning, but just so you know that there is another type of astrology which is called heliocentric astrology. Helios means the sun, which explores the position of the planets looked from the position of the sun. So this will be a different picture. Also, when it comes to our perspective here from the Earth, there are two options. We may either explore geocentric perspective or topocentric perspective. there are small nuances, but the geocentric perspective would explore how the sky looked like, but if you are watching from the center of the earth. So this will be one perspective. The other one is from the specific location where the person was born. And this is the astrology that we are going to use. So literally from the exact place, the exact country, city, location, from there, if you are looking at the sky and, let's say if this is during the day, or it doesn't matter which part of the day, how are the planets positioned? Again, you observe from the earth. And each of the planets from the solar system will have their own very specific position and many other things that, again, we will talk about in the future. But just so you get this feeling that this is not something that was made up. It's not something, that has no connection to reality. It has direct connection to reality. And also it's part of a cycle. Everything is moving. So we are catching this moment of the birth and the picture, how everything looked like at this moment. The position, the natal chart, or this picture of the sky when something is being started or someone is being born, will show us, it's like the seed. What is the seed that was planted in reality at this moment? And what kind of, let's say, metaphorical plant can grow from this? And there are other questions after that. For example, if you have, let's say, you're planting the seed of a rose, for example. Later, this rose may, for example, grow in the best environment, and it may turn into the best it could be, very beautiful, a wonderful rose. Or the environment may not be so appropriate, or something may not work so well, or this rose may not get to its full potential. Those are other things. Yes, they are also relevant. But the most important is that this can never turn into a tomato or, I don't know, an oak tree or something else. It can become a better or not so good version of what is initially possible. This is very, very important. And that's what we explore again. What is this potential that is being planted when someone is being born? Realistically, we need to know that it's very, very, very difficult to unfold, to kind of like express our full potential. So for most of us, we don't get to the maximum. We only get to certain percentage, certain part of what was initially possible for us. Through astrology, of course, we can work in this direction, and we can kind of like understand more what is our deepest potential, what is possible for us, what is beneficial for us. So the astrology chart, astrology map, horoscope, again, those are all synonyms. They will show you the potential of someone and what is possible to happen in their life. One of the interesting questions, of course, probably one of the most popular ones, is how much of that is predefined? How much is our willpower? How much freedom do we have? We don't have a simple answer to this, honestly. There isn't like one clear answer for everyone, because it also depends on our level of development. Overall, the souls or the people who are kind of like on a lower, more immature level, and this is not a bad thing. So we are not saying this from a judgmental perspective, but like, let's say the younger souls, usually they have less personal will and less freedom. Because for them, things manifest more on a material level. They still can't process this energy. And also imagine this, when you have a child, in order to protect them, you need to limit them. Otherwise, they really literally don't know how to protect themselves, so they can hurt themselves, something bad may happen. It's very similar also to us as souls. So when we are more like young souls, we have less freedom because this is also a mechanism which protects us. Also, for those who are more evolved, like on a really high level, they also have less free will, which may sound a bit strange, but usually those are also people or souls which have like some kind of concrete task or assignment for this life. And on this level, it's also not about freedom. Or here, of course, there could be many discussions if we are choosing our chart or not. That's another thing. But the point here, what I'm trying to say is that different people have different level of freedom and free will. But to some extent, we all have this. And also what's very important is that what we do can really change the way we experience or the way we handle with our chart. Again, we will discuss this with many examples. You will see how it works, but just so you know that this is also one of the greatest benefits. We'll talk about those benefits. When you study astrology, you understand more how one particular type of energy can manifest in different ways. Some of them are more constructive, others are less constructive. And obviously, you can consciously try to connect to the more conscious, hopefully. So this is also one of the interesting things. The benefits. So here is something very, very interesting. There are 3 types of perspectives. Subjective perspective. When you are trying to explore something that involves you, you are part of it, it affects you. So it's like you are exploring it from inside. You look into, let's say, some kind of situation. And when it's also about you, the way you see things, the way you interpret them, it's a subjective way. We are all like this. We also have the objective perspective. This is when we are observing, trying to understand, analyze something which is not personally about us. It's more, it could be about someone else, something external. So again, we look from the outside, but again, we are on the same level. And here is the interesting part. There is the 3rd perspective, which is called an absolute perspective. And the absolute perspective is the one which is like looking from above. You are not subjective, you are not objective. And this is what astrology provides. This higher perspective, which literally allows seeing things in a different way. It's more like how things really are. It's not about evaluation. It's not about good or bad. It's more like, you know, exploring the facts, just seeing, naming the facts, the processes, how things work. So astrology is the best tool for this absolute perspective. Here, please pay attention because the next thought is very, very important and not necessarily so kind of like easy to see right away. What happens when we try to use astrology? We can't switch into this absolute perspective because whatever we are doing, we will still be doing it from the subjective perspective. So for the humans, it's like, you know, astrology exists as something external and like the potential of the science, it brings this absolute perspective. But when we are studying it, when we are using it, when we are analyzing something, we are always doing it from the subjective perspective. And here is the most interesting part. We do it from our level, the subjective level, but we are trying kind of like to get there, to kind of like look at things from this perspective. And this is the greatest benefit, because what happens is that your subjective perspective is changing. Your subjective perspective is kind of like getting closer to the absolute. Can we really get to the absolute perspective? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe no, Maybe yes, maybe for some of us, I don't know. But what I know is that this really allows us to grow, because we are kind of like, we have, you might imagine it like a higher standard, something which you don't just switch from one to the other. You can't do this. No one can do this. You can only try to get your subjective perspective closer to the absolute. So in other words, this changes you. This changes how you are capable of seeing things. So the value of this is absolutely incredible. I mean, you can't really put a price on this, in my opinion. The other thing is that when you start studying astrology, it literally changes, first of all, your mind. It changes how you see things. It changes you. Especially if you, here we talk about serious astrology, when you are committed, when you are really interested, and when this becomes like, part of your life, or it's like a long-term process. This literally changes your thinking, your mind, and your personality. There is one saying that there are no depressed astrologers. Even people who might be more pessimistic or maybe even depressed, when they really dive deeper into astrology, all of this changes, because you understand, it's like you see the miracle of this universe, literally. And it's so special, and it's, so unique as an experience, that all of the gray stuff or the pessimism goes away. So that's also another very interesting benefit. The next thing, what are we exploring with astrology? With astrology, we are learning, we are trying to analyze and understand processes. And here I have actually one recommendation. Even if someone is interested mostly in the material side, the practical side, and there isn't anything wrong, we will get to this, the importance of the material stuff. So I'm not devaluing them. But let's say that your goal, your purpose, your main desire is you want to understand how things will work out on an external level, concrete events, or maybe in the future you want to make great predictions and all of this. So you want this perspective. Great, that's wonderful. But how to get there? To get there, you need to focus on the thing that is deeper. And what's deeper than the external form, or how things materialize, or the concrete events, deeper than that are the processes. In other words, there is always some kind of flow. There is always something that is developing, unfolding, and usually there are many lines. Like, it's not just one thing in our life. There are many things. They are, like they are connected. So each chart is a whole story. And when our focus is to understand the processes, what is really happening, it's like the meaning. After that, the more external things in terms of concrete events or what happens in reality is much easier to find, because you have, it's like a deeper perspective. If you are trying only to see things on the material level, it's like, you stay on this line metaphorically, and you see things in one way. But if you try to go deeper, and it's about those bigger or foundational processes in our life, if you try to go and look from there and you understand this level, then the other things, they are just like consequences, and they literally are consequences of something deeper. And it will become much easier for you kind of like to connect the dots, to see what you can expect. So what I'm trying to say is that it's much more beneficial, and honestly, in my opinion, much more interesting, if our focus is to go as deep as we can and to understand this general flow of where things are going, what is the logic, what is happening. After that, the other things are just kind of like common sense. And here, I'm not saying that we need to be realistic. So it's not always possible to predict everything externally, because the external events, things that happen, it's about the form. It's the form in which the deeper process manifests. But here we also have a huge benefit or potential advantage when we understand the deeper meaning of our life, of something we are supposed to experience, something we are supposed to learn, some kind of potential we have, like all of those deeper things. When we understand them, we have much more choices or potential to change the form, literally, which means that we may have more control over our experiences in the outside world. So this is also very interesting and important to keep in mind. So again, in our training, but also my recommendation is, if you want to become a good astrologer, your main focus should not be those external things. They will, again, come into the picture. You will see them, and it will happen in a much easier way if you focus on this deeper level. Here, yes, is also the place to add something else. Astrology is one of the main occult sciences. They are three. The most important occult sciences are three. Astrology, alchemy, and magic. And what does it mean that it's an occult science? It means that it's not accessible to everyone. And here you might think, what are you talking about? Everybody has heard about astrology. Most people don't believe in this. You can read in the past it was newspaper, nowadays it's more relevant to say website. There are all kinds of predictions and so on. Yes, but look at the depth. That's the important part. The superficial level of, if you are an Aries, you are impulsive, or if you are a Leo, then you are selfish. Yeah, okay, you can find this pretty much everywhere, but that's not the real astrology. The real depth of astrology is something that you need to reach. And here there are, from one side, I want to say there are no limits, but maybe for some of us, sometimes there are. And my honest belief and experience is that there are certain moments in life, and for some people, when it's like you get a window, it's like an opportunity. It's like, this path is open to you, and you can go deeper into this, and you can really understand something on a much deeper level. This experience is absolutely incredible. And again, if you feel like you are on such a path, or you have such an opportunity, or you see that, now it's like this is opening to you, keep in mind that that's something very special. And again, I don't think that it's possible for everyone at any moment. So I'm personally very grateful for this. And again, I don't think that there is a limit in terms of, okay, we've reached the final destination, nothing else after that. There is always something deeper and deeper and deeper. So from this perspective, astrology is the most occult science, because the real depth of astrology is hidden for the masses. For most people, it's just, they don't have the eyes to see it. Again, this is not from a judgmental perspective. We are all kind of like on our own path, so that's normal. Here, I also want to share with you what is the highest goal of the astrologer, or the person who is studying this for themselves or wants to become a professional astrologer. Or for me, this also sounds like the self-realization for the astrologer. It's the ability, and I would say the gift and the opportunity, because again, this is a gift. This is something that, again, you need to have this window, otherwise it will not work. But this magical opportunity to connect the sky and the earth through yourself. And when you start to feel this, that you are kind of like this, like a channel, or you are really able to kind of like get some kind of knowledge and share it with others or implement it here in this world, this feeling is like, it can't be compared to anything else. It's absolutely amazing. And why I'm saying this, first of all, because for me this is extremely inspiring and it's something real. Here I'm not talking about imagining that we are fairy tales or we talk to, I don't know, someone out there. This is from one side magical, from another side it's very realistic, and it's about something very pragmatic. And the important part, connecting the sky to the earth. And what I have seen is that some of us sometimes, often, forget about the earth part. What I mean here is that this knowledge that we get, we explore, we dive deeper, we analyze, we are working on this and so on. All of this is supposed to make our life better here on the earth. It's not just about, and this is a tricky part, because sometimes we use it in this way, just to detach from the world, to escape this harsh reality, this gray world, and so on, and just to, connect to the planets. This is not the real astrology, because if we do it in this way, we are just doing it because we can't stand the reality. And this will not give you enough, this, because you will just want to hide and run away. The real value, and for me also how we really expand, is when we use this knowledge to literally make our lives better here and now. So there should be some kind of, practical result, something that manifests on this level here on the earth. So this is one of the principles which I'm personally using in my work as a teacher, also as an astrologer, that this knowledge should be practical and also realistic. We will talk about this next. What will help you if you are interested in becoming an astrologer, or you just want to understand astrology better for yourself, whatever your motivation might be. The first thing is what I would call hunger for the truth. So to want to understand how things really are. Or in other words, this absolute perspective that we were discussing a moment ago. What is needed for that? First of all, we need to avoid those empty, positive phrases, promises, because that's also one of the things that, it makes astrology flat, superficial. When we are trying to sugarcoat things, when we are trying, to close our eyes for the difficulties, or we make up some stuff to make them sound positive. This is never about deep astrology. This is never real. So we need to be honestly interested in the truth, to understand what's really happening, what's really there, what's really going on. So, and to avoid the empty positive stuff. The other polarity is also not recommended, and it's about this, fatalistic perspective or approach, like, oh, it's so negative, oh, it's so bad, oh, if it's Saturn, oh, forget about it, nothing will happen. That's also not true. Here, it's interesting, in some books I was reading, but they are old books, so it's about old astrology. there were so many interpretations about hidden enemies, about someone being kidnapped, about, and I'm like, what is this? Like, luckily for most of us, I hope this is no longer relevant. Like, we are not kidnapped. We are not, I mean, it doesn't happen this often. So in the old astrology, things are more fatalistic and more negative because people used to live a different life. So really, there were constant fights and wars and all kinds of catastrophes. So plus also the individuality hasn't been so developed. So some of those really old astrology books can be too negative and not relevant to our current reality. So again, to summarize, we need to be interested in the truth. We shouldn't get too much into trying to make things very positive, very, nice, when, for example, they are not. But also we shouldn't see things as negative or we are doomed or nothing can be done. It's the most helpful, and I have seen this especially when I have worked with clients. And this is an art. So this is really not that simple, but you can learn to do it. To communicate to someone in such a way that you are telling them the truth, but you are doing it in such a way that it helps the person. We are not smashing him with negativity or how difficult things are. At the same time, we are not sugarcoating. So it's finding this sweet spot to tell the truth, but in a way that you will motivate the person. And I gotta tell you that this is always very helpful for the person, and they appreciate it much more. I have heard, let's say, from friends or someone has shared experience with in other cases. And for example, somebody promises them, oh, wonderful things will happen. Oh, everything is amazing in your chart. It's possible that at the moment the person may feel really excited, but over time, this doesn't lead anywhere. So the real astrology, again, is about desire to get to the truth. And that's why we need to be prepared. That's why I think that not everyone gets this window of opportunity or even would like to get the window of opportunity, because not everyone is ready to face the truth. I have even heard this from someone I know, and she has studied astrology, and she said, it was very interesting, but at a certain point I got scared because it became so real, and I really started to see things about myself, and I just decided to stop with this. So for some people, again, this is also normal. It's fine. They make their choice that they are not ready for this yet. So it takes certain level of courage, openness, and desire to really know yourself and other people as well. But again, for me, and here also personal and professional share and experience, I can't remember ever in my practice to seeing a chart and thinking, oh, what a stupid chart, or it's not interesting, or there is nothing there. In every chart, you can find something interesting. In every chart, you're like, well, how those things work together. It's so interesting, such combinations. And yes, of course, we are all very different. Some charts can be very difficult. Other charts might be kind of like easier, let's say. But in every chart, there is always something interesting. There are no boring charts. So yeah, this is very important to fall in love with your own chart. I highly recommend and hope that everyone will get to this point and will open to this, because there is nothing better than this. Because your chart, this is you and your life and your story. So the more you understand it, the more you connect to this, the more you appreciate everything there, the more you are accepting yourself and your whole life. And trust me, you don't have other option. You may reject it, but you can't change it. You can't be someone else. You can't have someone else's chart. So the best we can do is really to start appreciating our chart more and kind of like doing the best we can with it. Okay, now I want to share with you the three main, I would call them like pillars of studying astrology, and those that will be foundational for our training. But again, this will be helpful for everyone, even if you are not continuing with us or you study on your own, whatever your choice is. But this information will help you for sure. And those are, again, three major pillars. Shortly, I call them the science or the technical part, the intuitive part, and the art. All of them are important, and you can't skip, you can't neglect them if you want to really go deep and understand astrology. The technical stuff. This is about all the technical knowledge you need. Here, there shouldn't be any compromises. So it may take you some time. Each of us may need different amount of time. Some of us remember faster, others need to repeat something more time. This is not important. You should keep in mind just that without this, you cannot be good with astrology. You might be good in intuitive stuff, maybe being a psychic, maybe being something else, but you can't be a good astrologer without this foundation, like the technical information and knowledge. And here, my opinion and perspective is that if you focus and use one system, this will help you much more than if you're randomly trying from here, from there, some Vedic astrology, some Western, this astrologer, the other one, and then it's a mess because you don't know how to prioritize. My recommendation is choose one system, because when you're choosing a concrete system, this is like one concrete flow that you are connecting to, or you may call it a channel, whatever you want. And on its own, this is also very beneficial because honestly, it's difficult to explain it logically with words, but trust me, that's how it works. When it's a structured, concrete system, concrete method, concrete perspective, it gives you this foundation and you feel like you can rely on this. You don't feel lost, you don't feel chaotic in the, ocean of information. So this is, again, without this, we can't talk about astrology. We need the information. Back to school, as we said, learning and learning and learning. In my opinion, this is not complicated because when you are interested, when you see, that it's not about somebody forcing you, you want to learn this, it's about you. It's not difficult at all. But again, we can be different here. The important thing is just to know that you need to focus on that. I think that's pretty logical, no surprises here. The next part, which is the intuitive part. This one is more complicated, probably more interesting. And it's about learning to kind of like basically to feel the chart. This doesn't happen right away. And here again, we will be very different. Someone who is initially more intuitive, has, maybe some kind of gift, will do it faster. Other of us may need more time. Again, that's okay. But to have this in your mind, to have this focus, to try to look at the horoscope, the chart, and to try to feel, okay, to describe it as if you are describing a picture. Does it look like it's organized? Does it look like it's chaotic? Is there some kind of structure? Or, and when you practice, we will practice a lot with you. And when you see different charts, you will see that it's different. In some charts, you see that there is such a structure that you can't miss it. For example, if I show you, and maybe at some point I will show you my daughter's chart. She has a grand cross and it's like such a tight, organized chart. It's like, when you look into it, it's like you feel the energy. And this is extremely important because this defines the person very, very much. So learning to have this perspective also. How does this look like? What is the energy? Where is the energy flowing? You can also see those things with time and experience again. You may see that, for example, like the focus of the whole chart is in one particular point, or maybe two, or sometimes there is no focus, or again, all of this is incredibly important. And this, my friends, is something that is beyond the technical part. So for those things, we can't have like a cookbook. For example, we will have the things with the cookbook. We can't skip it. By cookbook, I mean Venus in Libra means this, Venus in Scorpio means that, Mars in Aries is so and so. We need this, absolutely. But there are other things that you can't just list, because can you describe 8 billion people living on the earth? Probably you can't. So, but with practice and experience, you learn to feel and to kind of like get this intuitive perspective. So this is very special. This is something that, in my opinion, not many astrologers use. So this will definitely separate you and differentiate you from others, because, again, this is just not one of the popular perspectives. I'm not saying no one else is doing it, but I'm saying that this is not a beginner's level. This is a deeper perspective. And it can tell you so much. So we will be focusing on this. I also recommend you to explore it, to focus on it. And we get to the third part, the most interesting, the most complicated, the deepest, which I like to call the art part, the art of astrology. After we have found all the details, the technical stuff, for example, someone has Moon in Taurus, opposition with, let's say, Pluto in Scorpio, but on the other side, they have dominant mutable energy. Their astrology pattern is, let's say, a bow configuration, but Saturn is intercepted, but this and that and that. And we have like all the different like pieces. We see them, we know on their own what each of them means. This is very important again. After that, how do we put all of this together? That's the real art. Here, one thing, just to save you the tension or the anxiety. Be prepared that there are always some kind of contradictions, always. But if you think from the real life perspective, aren't we all kind of like made of contradictions? Don't you see so many contradictions in life, in everything around us? So astrology really reflects real life, real people, like our reality. So what I'm trying to say is, don't be afraid when you see contradictions and you are like, what do we do with this? How do we interpret that? If you feel like this, by the way, that how does this make sense? Those things are so different. This is also an indication that the person is experiencing the same in their life, the same. So internally, they will have those contradictions. In some cases, it will be one thing, in the others, the other. So again, all of this will be relevant. So don't be afraid of those contradictions. But then, what is really important, and this is like the real mastery of astrology. I'm also like metaphorically explaining this as if you are painting a picture or someone's profile. And you start, I will show you how we are going to start from the general things, like the bigger things in the chart. For example, if you don't know what that means, don't worry. We will discuss each of those separately in details. But if you already have an idea, it might be a bit easier maybe to understand me. We will start with the general overview of the chart, the whole pattern. How does it look like? Again, this structure, are there focuses, and so on. The elements and the modalities, like the bigger things. But after that, we are adding more and more. And the point is that everything new, every new detail that you interpret should be kind of like put on top of everything else that you have already found. So here I'm a bit worried to go too much with the painting metaphors because it might become more unclear. But okay, yeah, let's keep things simpler for now. The important thing is that once you have found something from some kind of indications you have analyzed, when you add new indications to your interpretation, you should always consider how they would look like or feel or work in the whole picture. That's the real art. And again, with practice, you really learn to do this. And this is a special skill, which I would call like, we need to be able to hold the flow. So it's not like we are analyzing different points only. Like, oh, this indication, let's say Saturn is intercepted, but the moon is strong, but this and that. But we have found something, we have analyzed it, we already have some understanding about the person, and then the next details should kind of like fit this picture. We should find their place there. That's the real mastery, and that's the most interesting part. And that's something that, in my opinion, no AI, no software, no technology can ever do. As smart as they can be and all of that, but this is something that only the human mind can do. So just to keep in mind. Those three things, those three pillars, again, are foundational if you want to be a good astrologer. And that's, again, something we will focus on during the training. A few recommendations, what will help you? What do you need if you want to study astrology, if you want to become a professional astrologer, if you want to understand yourself with astrology? The first and most important thing is love. Love for astrology, love for the truth, love for all of those. From one side, they are extraordinary things. From another side, they describe our reality. So it's all connected. If you fall in love with astrology, everything else will fall into place. For someone, if you are, let's say, more pragmatic, and for you it sounds strange to fall in love with science or knowledge, the other way to describe it is pure, real interest. If you are really passionate, and if it's like, your heart is excited for this, then everything else will fall into place. You will find the right knowledge. You will learn to make sense of all of that. Things will happen. So I will show you in a moment. I promised you to show you the chart for today for the beginning of the training. And this is one of the really nice things. That's why I also chose the day right now, today. To do things with love, to do them with joy and with interest. That's how you really grow in something. Not as if this is not school, where you have to do, you're forced. We are choosing this. So the more you nurture this passion within you and interest, the better everything will become. Next, things, they are more practical. Practice and observe. This, by the way, will also be part. Again, I will explain from the chart where we get this from. But you learn astrology by your own experience. So, first of all, I think that everyone should absolutely know and work and explore their own chart. It's how we get started. So you will see so many things about yourself, so many things will make sense, and it's, again, incredible. But then I also highly recommend you to observe other people. And here is also one of my favorite parts. through astrology, okay, let's say that we talk about people around you, your family, for example. You see them often, you know them already, and you are in contact often. So you analyze their charts and you see some things and you make those connections. Okay, so for example, their Mars is like this or their Venus is like that. So that's why they behave like this, or their character is like that. So you use astrology to understand the people or the person. But the interesting part is that it also works in the opposite direction. Once you know someone's chart, then by observing them, their behavior, being in touch with them, seeing what happens in their life, this is also your way to learn more about astrology. So it goes both ways. Astrology helps you understand people, and people help you understand astrology. Absolutely amazing. And that's great, I would say, motivation for those of us who don't want to be in too much contact with people. We want to be out there, but people really help you to understand, this level. So, and I'm very serious. So this is really, really helpful. And again, works in both ways. Learn to think. This is very, very important. This is a specific way of thinking. Again, we all have different potential abilities. That's also normal. But astrology teaches you to think in a particular way. And it's, again, difficult to describe it with rational words. But just keep it in mind that the thinking is very important, because I will share from my personal experience. When I was getting started with astrology, I had this expectation of myself that I'm supposed to look at a chart, someone, for example, a chart I'm seeing for the first time, and it should be like downloading the information metaphorically, like I start talking immediately and I already know everything and I see everything. And it's like, it's there. You see the chart, so everything is there for you. Experience shows that that's absolutely not realistic. That's not how it works. You look at the chart and then you start diving into it. You start exploring it. You start kind of like following what's happening there. So, and this means that we need to think. It's not like, you are reading a book and you just, follow the letters and that's all. We need to think, okay, I see this and I see that, and how can those things work together? And you really start thinking about it. We will practice with this because that's not simple, but again, it's crucially important to learn to think. And also one share from my teacher, absolutely amazing, incredible person. And he was saying, I can teach you all the technical stuff. I can share all my experience, my realizations, and all of that. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how you look at this, I cannot save you the effort of thinking. You will need to think. Even if you have, again, the knowledge from the best people in the world, in every different situation and chart, you will need to think. So be prepared for that, and don't be discouraged again if you are not downloading the information right away and it takes you a while to figure things out. That's actually a very beneficial thing, because that's what's changing you. This process of you trying to figure things out, to see how can those work together, that's what changes you. Next, very concrete advice, very practical one. Don't be afraid of mistakes. If you are trying, if you want to be an astrologer, you should accept the reality that sometimes you will make mistakes, and that's absolutely normal. The more afraid you are from this, the more it will stop you and block you. So during our training, Don't be afraid of saying something, sounding stupid, making a mistake. What will others think? If others know more than you? Try to let go of all of those things and allow yourself to make a mistake. You learn from the mistakes, so that's absolutely normal. It will make your life easier, and it will help you to really move forward and to grow and to really learn. So mistakes, it's something which is there. They are a given. Also very practical. Don't get discouraged if you can't understand everything right away. Also completely normal. Some things will seem easier, others may take a while. Yeah, just allow yourself to grow. If you ever get to the point when you think that you know everything, that's not a good sign. In astrology, you can't know everything. In astrology, there is always more interesting cases, more experience. So, and also something specific for this path. Usually when we get started at the beginning with astrology, probably at the beginning, for most of us, it feels like, oh, so many things. What will I do? Will I learn all of this? Doubts and so on. Usually that's how we start. Then we get to the point, okay, I understand this, or I see, okay, this makes sense. We kind of like start to feel more comfortable. For example, we look at someone's chart, we see some things, we understand them. It's like we are, like, okay, there is progress, I'm doing it better. But after that, there is another level. And this happens when you grow. This happens when you get to a new level. You feel again like, what is happening? Like, I don't understand again, or now it seems more complicated, or I can't seem to connect the dots. If you get to such a process, that's a good indication. It means that you have made progress. It means that you are on another level and this is new for you. So that's why at the beginning you can't see things, or you can't make sense, or you see, it's not that you lose what you knew before that. It's more like you see that there is much more, and that's what makes you feel like you don't know enough. So, and those are levels, and they are happening all the time. So it feels unknown, you are not sure, you start feeling comfortable. Okay, I see. Then again, oh, but there is more. What do we do with this? And again and again. Again, this is a good process. You are growing. So just to be prepared that it happens. I was thinking about the next point. Should I include this? Is it? But I decided I want to share it. One of the things that could be a potential problem, and it's about our ability to focus our attention. Nowadays, I think that we will all agree that the environment is changing. We live in a different world socially, especially with social media and all of that. And it's becoming more difficult for us to focus our attention for a longer time on something. Even if you look on social media, the shorts and the reels and those 1-minute videos, they are the hit. And people are used to this constant stimulation, like the mind needs those constant shifts. So this can be a tricky thing, whatever, how to say it exactly, I don't know. But with this type of work, we need to be able to keep our attention. So just be aware of that. And again, we are very different. For some of us, it might be simpler, for others, more difficult. But without attention, or in other words, to focus on this long enough, we can't get anywhere. So this is one of the disadvantages, I think, nowadays for people. This can make it more difficult to study astrology, because for astrology you need commitment. It takes a while. It's not something you can learn in 1 week or 3 weeks. It takes time. But I was thinking then, but for those who are willing to do this effort, they will be able to do something much more special. In other words, if for many people it's difficult to keep their attention and you manage to do this yourself, then you will have a really valuable quality or ability. So also an interesting perspective. But to learn to control your attention, that's very important. And it helps you, first of all, with the chart, to understand charts, interpretation, and so on. But after that, it transfers also to your life. So basically, by learning to be part of all of this, the training, a group, some kind of process that we are all following, this teaches you also to have more control over yourself. And this is incredibly important. Okay, I think now is the time to show you quickly, without too many details. I want to show you the chart, why I chose the day. And I won't get into too many technical stuff, because if someone is new, I don't want people to kind of like don't understand what we are talking about. But I will try to focus more on the conclusions. What do we find based on this? What should we use? Again, the natal chart is the moment when is calculated in the moment when someone was born. And it shows the potential, where things can go, what is possible, and so on. We can use the same thing for any other event, new process, basically, yeah, whatever we want. So this is literally the horoscope, the chart for our first lecture class today. I will start with this one. We have, this is called a grand trine configuration in the air signs. What is the special thing? First of all, this is a very beneficial configuration. And the air signs, they are bringing the energy of, they are related to communication, interaction, and information. And also, it's bringing lightness. So this is something we need to, and it will be part of our process. Here, something personal for me, I don't have any air energy in my chart, except for my south node. We will talk about all of those things, what they mean. But for me, this is my personal challenge. And I'm honestly happy with this, because I also want to embrace this energy more in my life, and to be able to share it with you, and to, again, experience it through our process. So one of our main principles in our work will be that things should happen in a light way, without pressure, without tension, without feeling like, oh, now it's hard work and prepare and hold on. And no, it needs to feel light. It needs to feel like it's opening space for you, around you, within you, everywhere. And again, if you already know what that means, Venus is very strong here. Venus is in Libra. Venus is the planet of love and joy and pleasure. So we need to do, and we will do this with love, with more joy. And one of the main points will be to make our life more beautiful, whatever this means for each of us. For someone, this may mean literally things looking more beautifully in your life. For someone else, this could be about inner harmony, or relationships, or whatever your standard of beauty will be. But this will be, again, integrated in our training. Light energy that opens spaces for you. And the communication. So this suggests that we need to connect, exchange ideas, share experience. Again, for group processes, this is absolutely amazing. So the air energy will be part of our experience. The other thing, the 3 outer planets, those are the most special planets, the most complicated. They are not related to specific individuals. They represent collective processes that we are going through. They are related to subconscious mind, to everything extraordinary. And the 3 of them are connected with each other and also with the sun. The sun, again, we will talk in details about all of those, but just very briefly so you get this idea. The sun represents the individuality. So it means that each of us as an individual, it's like our conscious mind can get in touch with those transpersonal, I would say, beyond the rational understanding energies. For such type of work that we are going to do, that's like a real blessing, literally. Uranus, the planet of astrology, Neptune, the planet of intuition, creativity, healing, Pluto, deep exploration, study, transformation, and the sun, the individual there in the whole process. This configuration is called a kite. Try to look at this like it literally looks like a kite. That's why they called it this way. And again, we are practicing now a little bit with the visual perception. What is the feeling you get by the kite? That there is a direction, that it's going somewhere. It's this point here, the sun. It's like it leads somewhere. So the kite is like related to some kind of orientation on a goal, like there is a direction there. And the direction is pointing at the sun. For our process, this means that for each of us, this will be a journey of self-exploration. This is the most important. Even if your goal is to become a professional astrologer, to do readings for others, or to understand your husband or kids, or to help them, whatever, don't forget about yourself. First, you need to start with yourself. You need to understand yourself. So basically, this whole thing is showing us that we can get closer to who we truly are. Again, this is something that doesn't happen, or if it happens, it's very rare. Obviously, it happens. My point is that it doesn't happen all the time. So, a very transformative, very important process for each of us as individuals. So, I won't go into, okay, one more thing also, probably the last one. Because Saturn is also part of this, Saturn is in first house. One thing we should also keep in mind is the importance of the structure and to follow some kind of stable line. So my also task as leading this process or as a leader of the process will be to make sure that we are kind of like staying connected within some kind of frame. It's not about limitation. It's about having this stability of the concrete perspective. So we will not be mixing things with other approaches, Vedic astrology, but this house system, the other one, but Sidereal, but tropical, and turning this into a mess. No, it will be one concrete perspective that we will follow. You obviously, you're not limited to do only this. If you want, you can always expand and include other things, but I deeply and honestly recommend you, at least at the beginning, don't try to put everything from everywhere. You will get confused and lost. Try to stick to this perspective. Once you master it, after that, you will be able to kind of like scan the other information and see, aha, okay, this really makes sense. I understand. That's important, valuable information. Or something else you may say, that's not really relevant, let's say. Let's not use harsh words. So, but to get to this point, to be able to kind of like see which information is appropriate and useful and which is not really helpful, first you need to stay within one concrete system and perspective. Again, this gives you a lot of confidence because you have something to rely on, because you know that, okay, this has been proven, this works together. It really, really helps you to progress and to grow. And again, only if you know what that means, Uranus on the cusp of third house. Uranus is the planet of astrology. Third house is the house of knowledge and information and experience. And so for our work, this is very beneficial. And also one more thing, this Saturn-Sun opposition, and overall, you can see first and seventh house are really accentuated. This means that we will be able to understand a lot about ourselves by exploring other people, by learning about other people, observing them, and the other way around. So this connection between me and someone else and me will be very important in our process. Just keep adding this. So I think it's enough with this chart. We will look at those charts, the charts at the beginning of classes, because again, they show where the process is going, what is possible for us. And also, if we stay with this chart, I can keep talking and talking, but this is like the final thought. The Virgo-Pisces axis, very important for us, which means that we have the chance to connect the logical perspective, the rational thinking, with the imagination and the creativity and the intuition. And that's incredibly beautiful, in my opinion, and special. And it's really about connecting the material with the invisible. As we said, this higher ideal for the astrologer to connect the sky and the earth through themselves. So, yeah, it's very special. A few words about the training and specifically the curriculum. So this year, I'm adding more things. The structure is a bit different based on experience. I'm just figuring out what would be nice or what would be kind of like better for people. That's why I'm adjusting the program. The idea is always to make it better, obviously. This year, what I want to add more of is mythology. Mythology really helps you to understand basically what are the main stories, the main scenarios related to planets, related to signs, and all of those things. So we won't kind of like talk too much about it, but I want to give you like, those things that like guidance. Keep this in mind. You need to know this. It's again, basically with this, we go deeper. So this will be added, more mythology. We will add numerology also, and it will be actually at the beginning. We will talk about the numerology. The numbers, they represent principles which are higher than astrology. They are not so rich in terms of interpretations, many options, but they are more foundational. So when we know those principles, it will help us to understand some things in astrology better. For example, why the elements are 4, why the modalities are 3, the aspects, what each of the aspect groups means based on the connection with the numbers. Again, it will make your understanding so much deeper. So I will add foundations of numerology for astrologers, let's call it this way. We will also explore the meta zodiac. I haven't so far we haven't talked about this in the main course, but this year we will talk about it. The meta zodiac is a perspective of how each of the sign includes the rest of the signs within it, and in which place is this, which area is affected by this. So again, it gives you like a deeper perspective. I remember when I was reading this, learning about it, it was like, things are clicking inside, like, okay, now I understand, now I see. It's like, this is specifically for the signs. So you understand the nature of each sign so much more because you see the role of the rest of the 11 for each individual sign. So that's like a bit more advanced, I would say, but as a perspective, it will help you a lot. The other things that will be added, there will be some assignments and homeworks. Obviously, nothing is obligatory. You are free people. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. But I'm following on the idea about the importance of thinking. So I will try to come up with homework assignments that will help you first to think about something on your own before we fully discuss it. Or sometimes maybe after we will see how it will go. But I want to kind of like give you the opportunity to support you also in this process to try to think on your own. Again, no one can do this for you. So there will be homework, some discussions after that, for those who would like, of course. And we will have practice days. So at least once a month, we will have an extra day. It will be another day, not the regular class day, which will be only for practice. The things that we have discussed, we have learned. Let's see how this works with real charts. I don't think I need to explain why. Practice is always very, very helpful. And my intention is to have some time at the end of the course when all of the information has been discussed, practiced on its like the single things, the individual things, but then to make sure that at the end we have time to practice with all of this together, like full interpretation of a chart. We have discussed all of the things you need to know. Now let's put all of this together. So this is also, I think, very important. And again, intention after the training is over to have the possibility, the opportunity to meet in person if you are willing and able and all of that for practice in person. So astrology retreat, most likely during July. Just keep it in mind if you are interested. There's a lot of time until then, so we'll see. But with God's help, I think that it will work. So my intention and dream is to meet at the end and to practice even more. In person is always different. The like details, technical stuff, the training will be weekly. The classes will be on Sunday, most likely from 11 a.m. Eastern time. Sometimes it may change, so we will see how it goes. It will depend also on the group. So we will see what are the different time zones, what are our options. So everything is recorded. So if you need to miss something, no problem. You can always catch the replay. What else? I said about the extra practice days. Let me check the information. I want to make sure I'm not. The different packages. So you can join us for the training. We have monthly payment options. But also there is like a more advanced option. Except for the training, you can get also a monthly session with me. It could either be a personal, like a private astrology class for you to discuss something, to ask questions and so on, or it could be an Astro GSR session. GSR, very shortly, is a technique which works with the subconscious mind. It changes, it transforms the energy. This is my other direction, because astrology is amazing. Obviously, that's the love of my life. Nothing can replace it ever. And it changes your life. It's like extremely, extremely beneficial. But we get to a point in which you see some things, and some of those things you can't always change. Some you can. Some you really can, with more awareness, sometimes with willpower, or there are things that we can navigate. But for each of us, we get to a point or to something that it just feels like that's just you and nothing can change it. Or in other words, a very logical question. Okay, I see this problem in the chart. What do I do with this? I have always tried to find answer to those questions. So I have studied all kinds of things, traditional psychology, EFT, matrix reimprinting, backflower remedies, homeopathy, different healing modalities. They all have their place. I'm not devaluing any of them, but GSR is like nothing else. So this is just the deepest possible. So that's why I'm using this right now. So if you would like to work on a specific topic, we do this with GSR. So just so you know that we also have this option. Let me see. I wanted to check with the details if I told you everything. Yeah, it's clear that the classes will be on Zoom. Everything is recorded. You have access for 1 year. We'll have the extra practice day. Yes, I think I told you all of those technical stuff. If you have any questions, you can ask now, or you can always contact me personally, text me, email me, whatever works for you. I will see if there are any questions here. There is a question. I want to start working with clients and need this knowledge you talked about, how to interpret not only the technical level. Yes, we will start with foundations. So we will start from the very beginning. So if you don't know anything about astrology, that's perfectly fine. We will talk about absolutely everything. But keep in mind that the speed will be pretty high, I would say, because there are many things we need to discuss. So we will talk about everything, but, you know, it will be intense. It will be kind of like, yeah, we need to be in this mode, prepared for this. At the same time, as I also said, one of the important things is to make sure that all of this is happening in a light way, not overwhelming, not tense, not as if it's hard work, but like something that is bringing us joy. So, but yes, if you are just getting started, that's totally fine. The speed will be, I would say, quite high because we will get through many things. So from one side, I'm trying to make it work for, you know, more people. I know that some of you have experience, have some knowledge. So I want to make sure that it's also interesting for you. So you always learn something else. And this is interesting that even if you already know something, listening again to this will always give you another perspective. It will never be the same. Even now, for example, let's say I'm listening to someone else talking about a topic that I'm very familiar with, but kind of like hearing it from another person. It's with their energy, their flow, they share their experience. You always get something from this. So even if you know some things, you will always learn something new, I guarantee you. Who is my teacher? This is my teacher here. So he is always behind my shoulder. His name is Mikhail Levin. As I said, is the technical part the same as in the previous? Some of the things will be new. So I'm changing, the structure will be a bit different. And also there will be new things that will be added. So it's not the same. The study Metazodiac, the one I mentioned is Metazodiac. Okay, my friends, so this was like an introduction just to give you a taste of what we are gonna do, and also some recommendations. Even if you want to study on your own, those principles will definitely help you in the process. So if you don't have any questions, this will be all for today. Thank you all for joining me. I'm very excited because every time it's something new. Even if I want to, I don't think I can make it the same. It's like, because the other thing is that I'm also changing, and I'm changing all the time. And there will always be something more you will get. The next class is next Sunday. Your excitement is contagious. That's the real beauty of doing something in a group. That thanks for this reminder. Astrology is a group activity. Many of us have studied astrology on our own, but you really advance in astrology when you are part of a group. It's a Uranus science activity, knowledge area. And Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, the planet and the sign related to collectives, to groups, communities, people who share similar ideals, similar interests. So yes, that's why when you are a part of a group, it's like the resonance of the whole energy is, kind of like literally helping you also to learn deeper and faster. And of course, the one who is teaching is supposed to be also part of this. So yeah, the most important is the love again. So if you fall in love with astrology, I will be happy for you, and I will know that you will be fine. So yeah, thank you all again very much for joining me. Next class is next Sunday, probably 11 a.m. Eastern. So I will let you know, but probably 11. Ah, thanks for this question, how to sign. Yeah, either from the group, or for those who are watching the recording, I will post somewhere the link below the video, and I just posted it also in our chat. So if you are here, you can just click on this link. And if you can't find all of those things, again, you can always text me or email me, and I will share it with you. So thanks for being part of this. Keep in mind that every person in the group matters. So when you are deciding to participate in this, you are doing it for yourself, but you are also kind of like somehow also supporting others. And when certain group is being formed, gathered, it's never a random mixture or combination. So the people are always connected in some way. So it's always something special to be part of such a group. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me, and I will see you soon. Bye, everyone.